Well, good afternoon. I'd like to share some reflections about Independence Day because the 4th of July is coming this Saturday. America is about to celebrate what I would say is probably the most important day of the year. If my math is correct, 244 years ago, the founders of our nation met in Philadelphia. They declared to, at that time, the mother country of Great Britain and to King George that they decided to become an independent nation. 13 colonies would be colonies no more. They would join together and become a United States. Well, it's a big celebration and it'll be a little different this year, but it'll still be a great thing. Several years ago, my wife Trish and I attended an old-fashioned small town 4th of July celebration right here in the Orlando area, courtesy of the city of Winter Park. There were hot dogs that were free. There was water that was free. The weather was perfect, at least in the morning before it got too hot. And the band shell on the park, in Park Avenue, had a band and a chorus that was filling the air and our hearts with all the patriotic music that you're used to for the 4th of July. But the best part of the morning was not any of those things. It was something unexpected. Yes, I had read that at the beginning of the program, a group of people who had been through citizenship training classes and who had passed their final citizenship test, which by the way is fairly rigorous, were going to take the oath on the 4th of July at the beginning of the program. But I wasn't really prepared for the impact of seeing a stage full of men and women who were dressed to the hilt, who were excited and proud, and to hear a couple of their stories that they shared before they all took the oath of citizenship. They had been anticipating this for several years because there is a process, and they finally could join you and I as citizens of the greatest nation on earth. And it was quite a morning, and it was moving to those of us who were there. I realized that those people who became citizens by choice knew something that I didn't know. They knew what it was like to live somewhere else, somewhere with less freedom and fewer opportunities, and not too many opportunities to leave and go somewhere else. Each of them and their family members had ended up in Central Florida to create a better future. They left their birthplace behind and found their way to the land of the free and the home of the brave. And now, this shining city on a hill, as we've called our nation, was now also their own. The land of the free. What does it mean to live in the land of the free? I wonder what kind of life did Washington and so many others believe in so strongly that in order to make it possible, they were willing to risk their lives and take on the British Army and risk their families as well. What about the vision of Franklin and Jefferson and Adams, who gave the best of themselves to create a framework, not just for the Declaration, but for later for the Articles and the Bill of Rights and our Constitution, to create a framework so that this new nation would be a place where people really could live free. Their vision, I believe, was of a land where, as they said, each person could pursue for themselves life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They were determined that the leaders of the nation would not be chosen by birth or divine right or wealthy privilege. They believed in a place where leaders had authority only because the people gave them consent, and they could direct a government only when they had been chosen by the citizens. That was a new idea to so many who were already living here. Their vision was for a nation where the good of all was more important than the privilege of a few. A nation where each citizen had to work together with one another, especially in those early days where success required that each one had to give up a little and compromise a lot. If you ever read or see a video of the conversations back and forth between those as they frame the right words for not only the Declaration, but for our Constitution. And there was a lot of give and take in order to succeed as a whole. Their vision was for a people who also took these things seriously, who valued the truth and are willing to engage in an honest debate. Otherwise, a nation by the people would not last the 244 years or so that we have so far. Was also the home of the brave. They were willing to risk it all to take on what was a world power in the nation of Great Britain. They were willing to take on new roles, give up taking care of their land and their farm or their families in order to fight and lead and create the government. They put aside their self-interests and even some of their regional differences. And that was a difficult thing, to work together for the good of all. They took the risk of being wrong and failing or falling short and not accomplishing all that they individually might have liked. Well, it's the year 2020, and we judge these founders as wise, and yet we also have learned of some of their shortcomings. They were mistaken about the rights of women and people of color, and they favored those who owned land over people who did not. Today we have come a long way, even though we have some more things to do. So today, we live in the land of the free. So let's value what we have and not just take it for granted. Let's remember that we have so many blessings that even when we have to sacrifice or give up something for the good of others or for the good of our nation, that it's not as big of a loss as we might think it may be. The land of the free, to realize the good of our communities and of a whole, our society as a whole, requires some effort on our part. Not just to vote in the primary and the election, but to be active in our communities and to help our neighbors and to be part of civic groups and the things that make a big difference. Or here in Village on the Green, as we are able, even in this time of crisis, to be good neighbors to one another and part of our community. The land of the free also means that we have to sacrifice for freedom of all. Because one thing we have learned over these years is that when there are some who are not free or not have the opportunities of all, then we are all the poorer from it, and our society does pay a price for that. And so there is the time to make sacrifices for the good of everyone. The home of the brave. Well, the founders were brave enough to act in the face of odds that were truly against them. We know the story so well because they succeeded, but they came very, very close to failing dozens of times and somehow managed to get through it all. And so today, perhaps bravery is something that we can exercise as well. That as 4th of July is coming and we celebrate, let's also be brave enough to act in the best interest of those around us, to act with integrity, to use words and behavior that is kind towards each other, because only in doing so can we continue to have the fine country and community that we have enjoyed. People have sacrificed to entrust it to us. Now it's our time to make sacrifices so that children, grandchildren, and those who come after us will also enjoy this fine nation. Thank you. God bless America.